Welcome to the SkirtWork podcast.
Hello, it's Manda Milling again.
And Lisa Johnson. Welcome back.
Thank you. So, Lisa, today I thought we'd have a bit of a chat about remote working and getting people to come back into the office.
Oh, this is a hot topic.
Oh, it is. And once again, these are people that can work from home or work remotely. Once again, your courier service and the people that deliver your groceries can't do this. Once again, I do like that cartoon, the animation that said the pilot had called and said he was remote working from home that day, which was pretty funny in the time. But it is an issue with a lot of businesses. And I came across an article this week that I thought I'd share. And it was an article referring to a psychotherapist, a woman by the name of Esther Perel. And she gave a keynote speech. And she said, and I will quote, "Managing remotely is akin to raising a child you see once a week." So she was saying that the reason people enjoy work is they are with people that they love and they enjoy being loved back. Obviously, there's different versions of love, but being getting your feedback in immediate time. And I know for a fact that when Lisa and I work together and we're actually looking at each other across a desk, a few things get solved very quickly.
Yep.
What do you think about this? Can we do that? You'll say, Manda, that is completely ridiculous. So we can't do that at all. And sometimes, surprisingly, Lisa will say, Manda, that's not a bad idea.
And then I'll just suggest that I invented it.
No, Lisa's much cleverer than I am. So remote work now, as she said, now stands in the way of many important conversations and healthy workplace relationships. Now, when you've been around the block a few times like Lisa and I, look, we can work from home. We're fortunate. We know what to do. But where we get concerned is particularly where we're wanting to train less experienced people, and if I dare use the term younger. And I think part of my enjoyment of work and what I chose to do was the social network. Because when, you're younger, that particularly when we've got some of the people that work with us that have come, they're on visas with us that have come from the UK or somewhere, and they're building up a social network as much as a business network because they don't know many people here and, a lot of people their own age. So when we first started, I worked in recruitment, the average age was about 32. So we're all single, about 32. And, Friday night was maybe half a drink in the office and then we were off. We were going and continue drinking across the road. Then we'd have dinner and then, whatever, in the late night. And so it was quite a lot of camaraderie. And we were also expected, because the nature of the business that we did was to interact with each other quite a lot. So, you need to talk to people. So what Esther Perel is saying is that just being able to communicate with someone as a box on a screen is not good enough. And I think also what I think she lent into, which I've been talking about a bit in the office, is that if you've got a lot of work on, you're under a bit of pressure, just sitting by yourself at home is not really great.
I think, look, I'm going to agree with you specifically for people who are in a sales role. Okay, if you're in a sales role and you're selling products or services and it's hard graft, right? I know people hate salespeople, but it's hard graft.
Every business has salespeople, otherwise they wouldn't be in business.
And you can be let down so badly. And in fact, one of our lovely directors a number of years ago used to refer to, we'd get to the end of the week and we'd do a wrap up. How was the week? How was it good for you? And she would define it as a champagne or razor blades.
That's right. It is a roller coaster of emotions.
So it's either everything's fabulous at all, everything turned up gold this week, or it was like it didn't matter what I did, everything went wrong.
Even though you were using the same skills and the same knowledge. But having people around you
makes the difference, right? So if you're a salesperson and you're getting off a call and it's from a difficult person and you're angry and you're frustrated and you're sad and upset because that person has been rude and obnoxious and degrading, in terms of what your services are, the fact that you can put the phone down.
And yes, please put the phone down first.
And then turn to someone and say, God, that guy was such an a-hole. And that person's going to look back at you and go, I totally get it.
Yeah.
Now, if you're working at home.
Or people will overhear that conversation in the office and say, what was that about? And then you can actually just get it off your chest and explain, and then you move on to the next thing.
And that getting it off your chest lets go of the anxiety and the stress that call made, right? That the physical and emotional reaction that you had to that. Having people around you who go, I totally hear what you're saying, you're absolutely right, means you then are validated, you can get back on the phone and go to do your next call. Now, if you're at home and that happens, what do? You put the phone down, it sits in your brain, it sits in your guts, and you just fester on it because you don't have that ability to vent. And so 100% I agree with you on that. I do want to put the caveat, it depends on the role.
Oh, well, exactly.
And there we need to be a little bit more careful because
I think every job does have an element where you need to vent about something. So let's talk about an accounting team that are working with salespeople.
Oh, I'm venting.
And the salespeople have no idea, no numerical ability, and the accounting people are pulling their hair out. Well, they need to be able to say to each other, oh, yeah, and that's your tribe. That's your team. That's your tribe. Hey, I totally get it. They've got no idea. We'll work around it. And that doesn't matter what you do. There will always be an element of that. But if you can't share, there's a problem shared is a problem halved. It's an old cliche, but once again, if you're just working on your own, I think you're incredibly isolated. And I do a little bit of both, but I really enjoy coming into the office because I can do this with you, Lisa, of course. But boy, it really does. It does decompress you.
Absolutely. Now, the flip side is flexible working arrangements does mean that work is potentially available to people who may not have been able to work previously.
Yes.
So people with a disability, even some people with neurodivergence, because sometimes you can have a role that's completely perfect for someone with a neurodiversity who loves numbers, who loves to crunch data, who loves to do a set task, and enjoys being alone because then they've got the headspace and the quiet to get on with it. So there are times, and I think there are roles where working from home is completely appropriate.
But can I just backtrack on that? Those people that enjoy that kind of work have still got to learn the job.
Yes.
So, and I've trained, and you and I have trained a lot of people in our careers, and particularly with what I do is a bit different to what Lisa does, but there is still an enormous amount of one-on-one, particularly in those early stages. It's highly directorial type of training. It's a bit of a do this, do that, just to show people how to do stuff. And you can't do that on a screen. You've got to be there together to be able to say, well, this is how I do, and then it gives them an opportunity to ask a whole bunch of questions. You've got backwards and forwards because there is a lot of intensive one-on-one in the early stages, and then obviously it then expands, and then the training becomes more supportive than directorial, and the balance shifts and all that kind of thing. And when I then get concerned is quite often in what I've done is they actually listen to the conversations that I am having so they can pick up on, if you like, the nuances or just the subtleties in the job that I've always done. And I'll get off the phone and I might say, well, what you were saying, I've said exactly what you were saying. I just put it in a different way. And this is the reason I did that. So even today, I had someone ask me for something they weren't ever aware of. It was a certificate of incorporation, and she'd never come across it. But so rather than just give it to her, I explained to her what it actually is. And if in my world, it's just second nature, but in her world, it was new. So you try to understand. Okay, right, I understand why you use that and how it's used. So it means next time, well, she'll ask, but she'll understand what it's about. So that was just a very quick conversation. Just in our kitchen. We had that this morning.
A P2P, you will will have a tailored consultant that has an expert knowledge in a particular industry.
We have great technology in place. We have a really great relationships with lots of different clients and a lot of candidates in the market. We have specialist consultants within the team.
Internationally recognised, so there is an opportunity to collaborate with many different branches. But from a proactive perspective, we are able to answer clients' needs.
I'm really proud of what we stand for and how we operate. We always operate with integrity, professionalism, and we really pride ourselves on providing the best service to our client.
So then I get to the next stage is when you have to performance manage somebody. So someone out of probation in Australia after 6 months, if you do want to have that, if that person's performance, work performance or attitude needs some improvement, you can't just say, that's it, you're fired. You need to go through performance management, and there's a whole set of rules that we have to follow before you can then terminate someone. And even then, the person may not be happy about it, but that's what we have to do. I don't know how you do that remotely. So what I have seen some organisations have difficulty with is to say, right, they may be out of the office 3 days a week, to say, well, you now need to be in the office 5 days a week because we need to have this performance management plan. And some people refuse to do it. And then you'll say, well, it's a lawful and reasonable direction, and that's what has to be done. Now, you just cannot do it remotely.
I think the other thing that I find quite controversial about working remotely is the increase in the number of businesses who install programs on the computers that the people are using at home to monitor things like the number of keystrokes they're doing. It implies an inherent distrust that people working at home are actually just sitting on the couch watching, binging Bridgerton on Netflix. Go ahead.
I prefer hacks. And so if you've got an issue with the performance and the output of somebody, well, then you bring them back into the office to say, well, I haven't seen this deadline was missed or this was done or that was done, rather than doing that. Now, I guess if it's the business's property and they have issued them tools of trade and within their right that they have their property used for the purposes of earning revenue, work. But the other way you could just say, well, look, your output, I've looked at your stats, I've looked at this deadline, you will need to now come back into the office.
And to be fair, but businesses have always done it anyway. Businesses have always been able to, well, not always, but often have been able to look at the number of calls you're making. Look, if you're a salesperson.
Yes, because quite often there's ratios about conversion factors from calls to visits to revenue.
And
correct.
you have, and if you're doing outbound sales, you'll have targets that you're expected to meet, or if you're inbound customer service, then it's the number of calls you answer and so forth.
Because it's a numbers game.
It is absolutely
those jobs.
So those sorts of things are completely normal. And I just wanted to remind our listeners and our watchers that company-owned property is owned by the company, and you need to understand that your company owns Outlook, and it owns Teams, and it owns any of the other messaging software that you're using. And that means they own your messages. So please don't send inappropriate emails to anybody using your work.
Because I would imagine
devices.
You've also probably signed an internet social media usage policy.
Yeah. Just saying.
Just
saying it's an incredibly stupid thing to do.
And also, please return your laptop if you've resigned.
Yes, please do that. It is company property.
That's right. And your phone. Otherwise, at least it has the nuclear option of wiping everything.
Which I love. I love it.
I call it only used once, I think.
Call it going DEFCON 5.
Yes, that's right.
Well, actually, I used it recently when a manager lost his phone.
Yes, someone who should know better, can I just say on the record?
Lost his phone whilst overseas on holiday, and I did have the joy of contacting our IT company going, go DEFCON 5 on his phone.
Yeah.
Wipe it. It was just like joy. It was like
Yes,
something that happens in a movie, but I get to do it.
Yes, his spouse certainly knows what he's capable of doing, and he's done it.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's all sorted now. It's not a problem. So, yeah, like the whole, I don't disagree with this article, particularly around new employees. Because the other side of it, Manda, is how do you put someone on performance management if the manager's been unavailable because they're working from home?
Well, exactly. I absolutely agree with you there.
And the employee can just as likely turn around and go, well, I haven't received the support, I haven't received the training. My manager's been unavailable to me because, I can't walk across the room and say, hey, I've got a problem.
Exactly. And and look, the majority of cases, you want people to succeed. You're not setting people up to fail. You want them to succeed. And that's what it's there for. Now, some people then make the decision themselves, say, look, this job won't be for me. It's, I understand what I've got to do to get up to the standard that's required or the numbers that you require. And I'm not getting, well, that's, as I said, it's just a job. At the end of each day, it is just a job. And so if it's getting so fraught that you can't, that's your choice is you can leave. So it's interesting also, just getting back to Ms. Perel, I like this quote that she had, the majority of the people these days don't meet, don't see each other, and don't have proximity with each other. And I'll go back to the fact that we are still human beings. The robots have not quite taken over just yet. And humans, like people to people, humans need humans around you. So I understand Lisa and I in the people business can be heartily sick of people by the end of a week. That's still normal. But interacting and getting stuff done and getting it done quickly rather than waiting for the teams to click in and the camera's not working, or you just being able to say, hey, can we do this? Done, sorted. And having those, well, Lisa, let's be honest, the whole reason you and I, if you like, can talk the leg of a chair and chat with each other is because we've been doing it face to face for 24 years.
Yep.
No, I don't wish that on anyone, really. but that's why. It's not because we've been looking at each other in a square box. And I guess I sort of think, I don't want those people that are just starting a corporate career, the younger one, thinking that it's just going to be normal. I want them to see that there's interaction. So whether you are loading the truck for the groceries or whether you are in court defending someone or you're placing somebody into a job in a recruitment company, that you've got people around you that can have a chat. Because, some days can be tough, and just being at home, well, I still manage to try and call people and vent, but but you can't really do it with your family members or your flatties because they don't really understand what's gone on day to day. But I can chat to you about it and you'll say, oh, well, I know where you're coming from today.
Yeah. And look, we are talking about working from home, but, when you think about other types of corporate businesses or other businesses, those relationships are exactly the ones that are important. People stay at a job because they enjoy the work, but really it's the people that you're working with, because the job's a job that you can do anywhere. It's the people that you choose to work with. Now, just as much, if you look at people as to why they leave jobs, everyone will go, oh, it's for the money. Yeah, you know what? The money's there, that's for sure. It's the people. It's a toxic manager.
Quite often we've said to people when they've come to us to say, I'm looking for a new job, and you'll say, well, what's the reason? Oh, they're not paying me enough. I said, well, all else being equal, if they increase, I'd say because my boss is really nice. It's just that I know I can get more money elsewhere. I said, well, have you gone and ask them? Go and ask her and just see what she says. Problem solved. So, but if you're, once again, if you're making all that money and then the people around you can't stand and are toxic, you are not going to stay there. We always said many years ago with resumes and that sort of thing, people tend to hire people they like. You're not going to hire someone that on paper is going to have ticks every single box, but you cannot stand being in a room with them.
Yeah.
You will trade off 20-30% of those skills, which we can teach them that anyway. for somebody that you've got the intrinsic behavioural characteristics, and if you like, that you could have a beer with down at the pub, over somebody that you couldn't bear being in, the same city block.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%.
Now, on that note, so look, please be aware with your remote working, particularly if you're learning a new job or learning a new career, new skill, it's not the be-all and end-all being at home. So on that note, and also I'll say to Lisa, we haven't really had a chat about what we're reading, watching and doing this week.
Ooh,
so
that's a good one. Do you know what, Manda? It's been a
as we're
hard
remotely being at home watching it on our screen.
There's a lot going on, and I'm going to be really honest. For this week, I've been binging Call the Midwife.
Oh, it is a fantastic show.
I just feel
BBC
got
English
all
program,
of the,
wonderful.
I'm just loving it. It's one of those
quite a strong social commentary, that show.
It certainly does, but I feel like it's a warm cup of cocoa and a hug at the end of the day.
Well done. I think it's in about a 13th or 14th season. Yeah. Yes, well, I'm going to talk about what I'm reading because I'm a big reader, and one thing I will thank COVID for is the fact I got to read a lot of stuff that I didn't actually have time for. So I did the whole Dame Hilary Mantel's Thomas Cromwell trilogy, which was just fantastic. So currently I found this on my mother's bookshelf and I thought, I've never read it, In Cold Blood by Truman Capote. And I've obviously seen the film and the whole thing and read the story behind it and, yes, the biopics, but I've never actually read the book. And it's, well, controversially, they think maybe Harper Lee wrote a lot of it,
I was going to say she was
writing. Well, she is. He did dedicate it to her and Jack Dunphy, who was one of the characters that she based in the To Kill a Mockingbird. But anyway, In Cold Blood, incredibly readable. You're certainly sitting back thinking, goodness me, this published 1965. It's never been out of print, and about the Clutter family. People know the story. And the fact that he got probably a little too close to one of the murderers, let me just say. But how non-fiction, fiction, if I can put it that way, or true crime really wasn't a thing. And this book changed all of that. And so I'm, if I can say, thoroughly enjoying reading it, but it's a very interesting read. And I can't believe it's taken me all this time. So thankfully, COVID has got me in the mindset of reading books such as Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier. I'd read a couple of months ago, which I'd never read either, I'm ashamed to say. So it's got me in the mindset of picking up the stuff that I should have read many, many years ago, but I'm now reading now.
And don't you think that In Cold Blood is the precursor to our obsession
with true crime
podcasts?
Yes, well, I hope Lisa and I never have to get into true crime podcasts, in our little thing. But yes, that's the modern day version of it. But this changed everything, and it was very controversial. I think it was banned in certain places, which obviously made it even more popular. And it was just quite incredible. And in fact, I only just saw a tiny little biopic. Who was the man who was the original prosecutor in the Clutter murder trial. And he said, all of this is wrong and this was terrible and I'll never read it. So to this day, it is still incredibly controversial, 59 years later.
Well done.
Yes, anyway, I'm thoroughly enjoying it. There you go. So on that very uplifting note, once again, Lisa, we will say bye for now.
Bye.
And, of course, if you would like to listen to the SkirtWork podcast, you can find us anywhere where you get your podcasts. And you can also watch us on YouTube, heaven forbid. Lisa and I would much prefer this to be audio, but no, we're being videoed as well. So please subscribe, send us a comment. We would love to hear from you.